Revenge movies. We all love them. The Crow, a movie about a man who comes back from the dead to avenge his murder and the rape and murder of his fiancée, goes to make $50 million, according to IMDb.com. Gladiator, the story of a Roman general who finds his family has suffered a similar fate, goes on to make $187 million. What do these movies have in common? Why do they speak to us? Because they're more about revenge. They're about justice. They're about the evildoers paying the ultimate price and their heroes stopping them from ever doing it again. We all want to make the world a safer place. In certain cases, the death penalty is the only way to get justice, and more importantly, the only way to stop these heinous crimes from ever happening again. We all have loved ones. We all thought about the worst case scenario. I'm no different. I hear it every day from my niece. In the U.S., there was 14,196 murders in 2013, according to FBI.gov. We only pray that our loved ones do not end up in these statistics. The significant problem of murders and overcrowding in prisons caused by the red tape and costliness of pursuing death penalty may be solved by making the death penalty cheaper, more efficient, and using it more often. In today's media, you've probably heard the arguments and statistics against death penalty. I'm going to give you some statistics and evidence as to why the death penalty is important and should be supported and expanded. Let's look at the problem. Prisons are overcrowded. Murderers live to do it again. You've all seen the headlines. Over 30 killers killed again after being freed from prison, says BBC. An article in CBS News, 1,400 inmates sentenced to life in prison were released due to overcrowding. About 1% of them released prisoners who had served time for murder were arrested for another homicide within 3 years. IB Times says there are 166,700 people incarcerated for murder in 2014. And 1% of those would be 1,667 people that we could have saved. Life in prison isn't the answer. Murderers killed in prison are released or escape. If you've seen the news lately, you've seen the report of the 2 men, convicted murderers in New York who escaped. Luckily, one was killed and the other captured, but sometimes we don't get so lucky. Another inmate serving a life sentence for murder allegedly beats to death a guard with a ladle. Why do we allow this to keep continuing? One would think that applying the death penalty would be a cheap and final solution. After all, we wouldn't have to pay the daily cost of housing a prisoner. But we'd be wrong. Red tape and costliness of pursuing the death penalty cause some states that pause or cause them to abolish it outright as budgets shrink. Endless red tape. The legal machinery of capital punishment, the endless process of appeals and reviews is equally miserable to ponder, says David Wondrell, editor-at-large for Times.com. Tom's Knight was sent to death row after kidnapping, robbing, and murdering a couple. It took 39 years to execute Knight. In Florida, 3 men who were tried on death row were, in 1975, were still there, marking the 40-year anniversary. On May 24th, Nebraska death row inmate Michael Bryant died of cancer nearly 3 years after he was sentenced to be executed by the state. It's more expensive to pursue the death penalty than give someone life without parole. Richard C. Dieter of the Nonpartisan Death Penalty Information Center says that studies show that death penalty trials cost $1 million, more than in which prosecutors seek life without parole. We must institute reforms to make the death penalty cheaper and more efficient, because the death penalty saves lives and deters crime. Using a panel data set of over 3,000 counties from 1977 to 1996, professors from Emory University found that each execution on the average results in 18 fewer murders. The death penalty is justice. James Holmes gunned down 15 people at a movie theater in Aurora, Colorado. The district attorney stated, in the case for James Egan Holmes, justice is death. There is proposed legislation that ideas to make the process cheaper. Dudley Sharp, former vice president and political director of justice, of all, stated that California can make the death sentence inmates cheaper than their lifers. if they properly manage their citizens' money as Virginia does. This would make the cost of housing a death row inmate to the same as housing a lifer. Florida Republican Governor Rick Scott recently signed a law that will speed up Florida's execution process. The governor now must sign a death warrant within 30 days of the Supreme Court certifying that an inmate has exhausted all appeals. The execution date must be 6 months from the date of warrant. This would ensure a speedier execution. Robert D. Stefano, a retired mayor with the Baltimore Police Department, had a good idea. How about this? One trial, one appeal, and then either acquittal or execution. Now that would be quite effectively and greatly reduce the cost. Alternative execution methods are being looked to lower the cost. Oklahoma is considering the gas chamber. Oklahoma State Representative Mike Christian stated, "You wouldn't need a medical doctor to do it. It's a lot more practical. It's efficient." All is not lost. Justice can still prevail. Murderers and overcrowding in prisons caused by the red tape and costliness of pursuing the death penalty can be solved by making the death penalty more efficient and using it more often. Executing murderers saves lives and frees up prison space, and steps can be taken to make the process cheaper and more efficient. Support legislation to streamline the death penalty and vote for a death penalty. I don't know about you, but I know that I'd rather pay to execute a murderer than to give him life and have the chance to go out and kill again. Where would you rather see your tax dollars? Thank you for coming and listening. And I have something to think about.